For number 24, we're asked to find the area of the region under the graph of the function f on the interval from -2 to 1. So what we're basically told here, of course, is the upper and lower limits of integration. So this is our a and our b. So this is the lower limit of integration and then the upper limit. So we're going to integrate to find the area. And remember that it says under the graph. Basically that means between the graph and the x-axis. So we're going to integrate -x² plus 10 with respect to x, and we're going to put the lower limit of integration to be -2 and the upper limit of integration to be 1. So when we say find the area, then that means to integrate, and then we want to look for the lower and upper limits of integration. So we're going to find the definite integral here. So we're going to find the antiderivative first. So that would be -x³ divided by 3. So we'll add 1 to the power, divide by the new power, plus 10x. And then we're going to evaluate that antiderivative at the upper and lower limits of integration. So that would be -1 cubed divided by 3 plus 10 times 1. So this is the upper limit of integration plugged in place of x. And now we're going to subtract from that the lower limit of integration plugged in place of x. We're going to plug in -2 in place of x. So I get -2 cubed divided by 3 plus 10 times -2. So let's start simplifying. 1 cubed would be 1, and we have that negative out front, so that's -1/3, plus 10 times 1 would be 10. And let's simplify within the second part here. So -2 cubed would be -8 divided by 3. We have that negative that's hanging out front again, so we'll think about that in just a second. Positive 10 times -2 would be -20. So let's simplify a little bit more. So it's -1/3 plus 10 minus, so a negative in the negative would give us a positive 8/3 in that bracket, minus 20. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to distribute the negative, and then we're going to combine some values between the upper and lower limits of integration. So it's negative times positive 8/3, so it's a -8/3. And then negative times a -20 would be a positive 20. And distributing the negative and then combining factors actually could simplify really nicely for us, because we already have two fractions that have a common denominator. So we're going to combine the numerators on top of that common denominator. So we're going to keep our denominator of 3 and combine -1 and -8 to give us -9. That's really nice because we know that's going to simplify. Positive 10 and positive 20, we get a positive 30. So we get -3 plus 30, which gives us a positive 27. So my suggestion here is when you have fractions, go ahead and distribute the negative and then combine the fractions together first. And then if they simplify, we don't have to worry about finding common denominators when we actually find our final answer. For number 25, we're asked to find, once again, the area of the region under the graph, which means between the graph and the x-axis of the function, and we have our upper and lower limits of integration, so from -27 to -1. This is our a and our b. So we're going to integrate from -27, so we put the smaller number at the bottom, the larger number at the top. And then we're going to integrate the function. Let's go ahead and write this as the cube root of x. Let's go ahead and write this as x to the 1/3 power. And we're going to integrate that with respect to x. So we're going to find the antiderivative of each term separately. So that would be 2x minus, we're going to add 1 to the power, so that would be 4/3. Then we're going to divide by that power. And then we're going to evaluate from -27 to 1. Let's simplify a little bit before we do that. I'm going to go ahead and flip this and multiply it times the top. So we're doing 2x minus 3/4 times x to the 4/3 power. And we're going to evaluate from -27 to 1. Remember that when we evaluate at the upper and lower limits of integration, we put the upper limit in first. So that would be 2 times -1 minus 3/4 times -1 to the 4/3 power. So there's putting a -1 into the antiderivative. That's our upper limit of integration. Minus, now we're going to do the same thing for the lower limit of integration. So we're going to plug a -27 in place of x. So that would be 2 times -27 minus 3/4 times -27 to the 4/3 power. All right, now we're going to simplify, of course, within each bracket. So 2 times -1 would be -2. Then we have minus 3/4 times. Keep in mind that what 4/3 power means, it means that we are going to take the cube root of what's in the parentheses, and then we're going to raise that to the power of 4. So the cube root of -1 would be -1. And then we're going to raise that to the power of 4. Well, -1 raised to the power of 4, anytime we take a negative number and raise it to an even exponent, we're going to get a positive value. So we get a positive 1. All right, let's keep going. That would be -2, and then we have -3/4 times positive 1, so that's -3/4. I'm going to stop there for that one, and then we'll come back in just a minute to simplify. All right, so for the next group, we're going to do something very similar. 2 times -27 will be -54 minus 3/4 times. And now once again, we're going to take -27 and we're going to take the cube root of that, since our denominator of our exponent is 3. And then after that, we're going to raise it to the power of 4. The cube root of -27 is -3. We raise that to that even exponent of 4. We get a positive 81. All right, so we get -54 minus, we think about 81 as 81 over 1. I'm going to multiply across. So that would be 243 divided by 4. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and just stop there instead of combining within the brackets, because I have two fractions that already have a common denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute the negative into the second group. So I have -2 minus 3/4 plus 54, and then plus 243 over 4. So I have two fractions that already have a common denominator. So let's go with that. And let's combine these two together. So I keep the same denominator, combine the numerators on top. So -3 plus 243 would be 240. And let's combine the whole numbers, or the integers there. 54 minus 2 would be 52. And what's really convenient here is that 240 divided by 4 is actually 60. And those combine really easily to give us 112. So the area under the curve here, we get 112 units.